What is up, Fight fans? I am Jason Burgess, and for this live simulcast of Back Talk, I am joined by one of the most talented competitors in the entire grappling game. He's currently the Submission Underground King and holder of their men's absolute championship. But this Saturday, he returns to action outside the Sug Cage and instead on Fight TV as he competes in an 8-man tournament at Third Coast Grappling 6, with the winner getting 20 G's, baby, 20 G's. And that man is the Craig Jones Slayer, the gold medal Slayer, even the Boogeyman Slayer. He is Mason Fowler, Mr. Slayer, sir. Thanks for the time today.
Man, thanks so much for having me, and thanks for the intro. That's like the best intro I've ever got.
Yeah, my pleasure. I was hoping to top the last time. Hopefully, I topped the last time we talked.
Yeah, I feel like I remember you having a good intro last time too.
Yes. Now I have a lot of questions for you, various time and various stuff. So I'll jump right into them now. So first, let's talk about your return to action on Saturday. Like I mentioned, it's down in Houston, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
In this 8-man tournament for $20,000 for fans getting into like submission grappling. Where does this kind of prize money rank in like the grand scheme of industry rewards? Is it kind of the standard for tournaments like this, better than the usual? And how does it rank up against, say, like your submission underground pay? Because like, let's say you have to compete 3 times to get 20 G's. Is it similar to that? Like, people don't really see payouts when it comes to submission grappling stuff.
Yeah. So just for a point of reference, ADCC is like known as the most prestigious tournament for submission grappling. Yeah. And the last ADCC, I think first place was 10 grand.
Oh, wow.
Now, I've heard the next one, they might up that, but 20 grand for a grappling tournament is pretty high. There's one gi tournament called Spider in South Korea, and I think it's like 100 grand to first place.
Wow. But now, is ADCC as many guys as the 8-man tournament, or it's even more people per bracket?
Well, the thing about ADCC is that you have to get invited or you have to win like a qualifier.
Okay.
But it's a 16-man bracket, so
wow,
4 matches to win.
Yeah.
So this one's an 8-man bracket, so 3 matches to win. But this bracket is so stacked. I mean, it's like an ADCC. I mean, you have an ADCC gold medalist, ADCC silver medalist. Victor Hugo's like a Nogi World absolute champion. So it's just as stacked as an ADCC bracket.
And that's and I plan to get to that because I wanted to give you a quick kind of scouting report and so to speak on it. But give me me and the other uninitiated grappling fans, like I said, like it's a breakdown. I'll just jump right into a breakdown of these 8 guys in this tournament. You mentioned a couple of them already. Who would you say outside of yourself is a favorite to win? Are there any dark horses similar to like how you were a dark horse in those early submission underground days? And are there any competitors in this group maybe that you have faced before in previous tournaments, previous promotions, or maybe guys that you haven't ever faced and you're like, damn, I've been looking to maybe get my hands on them. I might finally get that opportunity in this.
Yeah, so I'll speak in terms of like the betting odds, right?
Okay.
Because everyone in the tournament is really good, and I'm friends with a lot of the guys in the tournament too. So I don't want to sound cocky, like I'm better than
be cocky, do it.
Just as far as the betting odds, they have me at the 4th as like kind of like the 4th seed, right?
Really?
3 guys that they have with better odds than me. One of them is Kainan, who won ADCC. He's won pretty much every tournament. He won Black Belt Worlds. And he's also really big. The other 3 guys ahead of me are all like heavyweights. They're all real big.
Okay.
Nicky Rod, who got 2nd at ADCC. He lost in the finals to Kainan. And he's beaten a lot of really good guys since as well. And then Victor Hugo, who won the absolute at Nogi Worlds, and he was a monster all throughout the colored belts, and he's beaten a lot of good guys too. They have me at number 4.
Wow.
But then even like the bottom 4 seeds, if that's what you want to call it, are all, I mean, any of them have a chance to win. Tex Johnson is like a wild card. He's tapped some really, really good guys. He's just one of those guys where like you never know. Like you've seen him like win some big matches and you've seen him lose some big matches.
Mm-hmm.
So he's definitely a huge wild card. And then you have Tackett, who's 19 years old and has just been on fire lately, has just been tapping guys. He's a young guy. Again, he's like another wild card because he's younger. He doesn't have as much experience, but he's won a lot of big matches. And then you have Heba Mar, who's my first match. Again, he's like really low in the seating, but he just won Nogi Worlds at Black Belt. I mean, he's a Nogi World champ. He's not a chump by any means. He's really, really talented. And then who am I? And then Pedro Murillo is another guy who his odds on paper aren't that great, but he's an animal. He's been winning a bunch of money tournaments lately. He's really ferocious. He has a really good guillotine. So that's why the tournament is so interesting, because even the guys who are like look on paper like the underdogs are all really, really talented, and everyone has a chance to win.
Interesting. And interesting considering what I'm going to ask now in terms that you're like the fourth seed, so to speak, considering how popular Submission Underground has got and you being the reigning multiple time defending champion for it, do you go into events like this feeling a target on your back like never before? You have become the guy others can use a win to build their name off of, and your brand holds value specifically by winning all the time, like it was, recently for Craig Jones before you beat him. Do you feel an added weight now when going into events outside the Submission Underground sphere?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. No. I mean, even though Submission Underground, the absolute title, it's an amazing title. Still, I mean, there's guys like Kainan, he's an ADCC champ, so guys are going to be gunning for him just as well. Guys want to get a win over an ADCC champ, So I'm not there. There's a bit of a burden anytime that you accomplish something. The younger kids want to, get some clout off your name, but I'm not wearing the burden any heavier than any of these guys.
Is Chael Sonnen like supportive of you going out, competing elsewhere, wanting you and your other competitors to maximize your money-making opportunities? Or is there a feeling like he would prefer you be exclusive to SUG events like you were, honestly, throughout 2020? But that was probably pandemic fueled anyway. Going back to like the idea of value, I would imagine he really wants you to be this unbeaten monster for them. And if a loss does ever come, he'd prefer to be in the SUG cage. Do you feel he's happy for you to be supportive about this? Or he's like, you sure you want to do this?
I'm not sure, because it goes both ways, right? If I go out, let's say I go out and win the tournament, which I'm coming to win, right? Everyone's coming to win though, but let's say I go out and win the tournament, then it brings so much more value to Submission Underground. Like so many more people are going to watch Submission Underground. But like you're saying, if I do catch a loss, then maybe it might bring the value of Submission Underground down a little bit, right? Because it's like, their champion just lost to so-and-so.
Yeah. So
it's a two-way street. If Chael came to me and asked me to sign a contract, an exclusive contract, that's something that I would be up for, because he's always taking care of me, man. They keep me busy, and they keep me happy, and they keep my bank account happy too. So if that conversation were to ever come up, that's something I'd be willing to have a conversation with Chael about. But I do like, because Submission Underground does have a very unique rule set, I do like going and competing in other rule sets too. I don't want to be just good at this one aspect, because this is one aspect of jiu-jitsu, right? Third Coast also has kind of a crazy rule. Their rule set is kind of crazy. So yeah, let me go test myself in this rule set, or let me go throw the gi on and test myself in the IBJJF rule set. So I've always wanted to be well-rounded and be good everywhere. So that's why I do like to jump into these other events too, even though like I just competed in SUG like 4 or 5 days ago, because they're so active. So yeah, I wouldn't mind having that conversation if it came up though, if that's what Chael wanted.
Two questions then. One, what makes one, do you have to, I'm guessing you don't have to like kind of pass it by, Chael, I'm going to do Third Coast grappling, do you not have to like, do you not throw it by him and his people? And two, what makes this rule set different? Because I'm used to Submission Underground, I'm used to like how they use the EBI. Is it like different? Is it similar to ADCC or IBJJF? Is it a mixture? Like what makes their rule set different than others?
Yeah. So to answer the first question, they've never asked me to give them a heads up if I want to compete elsewhere. But I'm sure they do expect me to have them as like the first priority, which I do already, but I'm sure they expect that, right? So
yeah,
I do always like try to figure out when the next dates are going to be so I can make sure I'm not doing anything on that day, like 100%. The other question was about the rule set. The rule set is wild. It's not like anything else. So the difference is there's a 7-minute regulation and then there's like a 5-minute overtime, right? But like normally in the regulation, like let's say I'm up 2 points or I'm up 4 points, regulation ends, we don't go to overtime, right? Because I'm up, I'm winning.
Yeah.
So in Third Coast rule set, even if you're up on points, you still go to overtime unless you're up by 11 points or more.
Wow. Okay.
So you have to put 11 points on the guy or tap him to not go to overtime, right?
Are points easy to gather up real quick, like that you could be up 11 or not really?
It's impossible. I mean, scoring 2 points on one of these guys is
damn
impossible.
Yeah.
So whoever's winning with the most points gets to choose from 3 starting positions in the overtime. One of them is top close guard, one of them is bottom close guard, and the other one is standing. So there is there's a, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. Incentive. There's an incentive to be up on points during the regulation, right? Because then you can put yourself in an advantageous position in the overtime. So then in the 5-minute overtime, it's a golden score, which I believe, I'm not really 100%, but I believe means it's the first to score and then it's over.
Okay.
So then it's like, yeah, you want to be up in regulation so that you can pick the position in overtime and then hopefully score first.
All right, fair enough. Now, so I wanted to talk about your latest Submission Underground title defense, because this run right now, to me, it feels like just proving the remaining doubters, if there were any of them, wrong. I have no doubt some may chalk up, both the Craig Jones wins as just, he maybe had the right style and stuff like that for Craig Jones, because Craig losing, he's so revered, it's a big deal when he loses. First, but since then you were head and shoulders better than a gold medal winning judoka in Satoshi Ishii. First round sub on former 2 division champion in Bellator, Ryan Bader. First round sub on Richie Martinez, one of the most active, successful competitors in Suggs history, and a guy that has only lost once in 5 previous appearances. When I talked to Austin Vanderford after he beat Richie, he didn't have a full grasp of what that meant. But you are far more immersed in this world of competitive grappling, have been in a part of the BJJ community for a long time. Is beating him the way you did one of those wins you hold up high in your career as one of the important ones? Because he is very accomplished, highly respected grappler.
Yeah, I think so. And I would say that the Submission Underground rule set would probably be Boogie's most advantageous rule set to get a win over someone like me, who I came up more traditional under like IBJJF points tournaments. Richie Martinez has that 10th Planet style where they're really submission heavy and they're really good at the EBI overtimes. Because obviously EBI is Eddie Bravo. Eddie Bravo started 10th Planet. So all the 10th Planet guys are, really versed in the EBI overtimes. Yeah.
Now, where do you want to go next as Sug champion? You beat their first iconic figure, Craig Jones, beat Gomez, like I said, an MMA fighter, beat elite world champion in MMA Bader, and now, Richie, who's highly respected. Is it about finding like the very best grappler possible to further build your legacy in this industry? Is it about just bigger names to build your brand that much more? Last time we talked, you mentioned dream matches with John Jones and Brock Lesnar. Now, both those are probably unlikely just because the price range. They're both expensive guys, especially John Jones asking for more than $8 million just to fight. But what about someone like George St. Pierre? Good friends with Chael. Would you like to make that call out now? Or maybe a respectful call out to Khabib? Be a jerk, but do you want to maybe call out Khabib now?
No, I can't call Khabib out.
Call him out. I'll call him out for you.
No, I'm here in San Jose, and I enjoy training at AK, and I don't want to get thrown out of the gym. But, I mean, a respectful call out to George St. Pierre. I mean, that would be amazing. George St. Pierre is like one of my idols. George, if you're bored with retirement and you want to do a grappling match on UFC Fight Pass, I would be more than happy. cage with you. There's my respectful call out.
And I like because Jordan now has kind of like the frosted blonde hair. You got darkest, like Dark Horse versus White Knight. It's a perfect clash. Chael, if you're watching this, George, if you watch this, make it happen. St. Pierre versus Fowler. We got to make it happen. Now, circling back to Craig Jones, what are your thoughts on this planned intergender match with Gabby Garcia? Is it strange to you? Are you all for it? Are you mad you didn't think of it first? And the people must know, who do you think is winning, Craig Jones and Gabby Garcia?
Yeah, so I think it's a genius idea.
Right.
It's all marketing, right?
Yeah.
Genius idea. It might get picked up by some mainstream media somewhere and blow both of them up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess if Gabby wins, I'll have to challenge her for the intergender belt next. Yeah, I think if it is real, then Craig would probably leg lock her, right? But yeah, who knows? I don't know. I think it's a great idea, though.
When we talked last time, we talked about the idea of a possible return to MMA if the money was right. Recently, it became official that another superstar of the grappling world, Gordon Ryan, signed a deal with One Championship where he'll fight MMA, but also be allowed to grapple in their cage or their ring, something they have done with other fights like Shinya Aoki and Gary Tonnen. Were you surprised Gordon is joining his mentor and Gary Tonnen in MMA? Would a deal like that where you can still do both appeal to you? And if someone from One came with you with a good offer, would you be open to the idea of the match of you and Gordon Ryan that everyone wants to see happen in MMA instead of in grappling?
Everything has a price tag, right? So depends how many zeros they're throwing at me. With that being said, too, I think, man, I saw somewhere that Gordon he signed to One Championships, and he said that if he ever does decide to fight MMA, it would be there. But for now, it's just going to be grappling. So I would like to see him fight in MMA, but it sounded, by the sounds of it, it might be just grappling, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know really. I'm making good money right now doing jiu-jitsu. It just comes down to money, right? Money makes the world go around. So
yeah,
it depends on the offer. If the money was right, I would do it. I would go back into training, and it's just a lot. I mean, that's going to be like a whole year out of my life, right? So what kind of price tag can you put on that? A year of training MMA, putting everything in grappling on pause. And so we'll see. I'm not too, I fantasize about it. You know, when I'm in the car, I'm like, oh man, I could do just one more fight. Of course, I think about it probably on a weekly basis, but in all reality, it's probably not the smartest thing to do.
Now, when we talked last time too, you talked about the idea of eventually wanting to open up an academy. So what's kind of like the big long-term goal? Is it just, continue to, obviously it's making money, having a career, building your finances for your future, but what are like the main long-term goals for you? 5-year, 10-year goal? Is it just legacy? Do you want to be considered the greatest grappler of all time? Is it all about building wealth so you can have that academy and pass your knowledge on to the next generation? I mean, because things are going so well, is the academy deal idea like closer? Are you trying to have something like that within the next year or so, if possible?
I definitely, my big picture goal right now is like ADCC, right? I really want to win ADCC. That's in the back of my head. Every time I go to practice, I'm thinking about ADCC. It's looking like it's probably going to be in about a year. It's going to be early 2022, possibly. Okay. As far as long-term business-wise, definitely an academy. And then there's so many other things. There's other avenues with jiu-jitsu also. I do have one tournament, like an IBJJF type tournament that I started. We ran one event a couple years ago, and I have all the equipment for that. I have all the mats and the TVs and stuff. I have a business partner that ran that with me. And then I have another separate business that we just did our first event. It was more like super fight style, like Submission Underground. We even did it in the cage too. Nice. So those are two other separate businesses that I can start putting more time into whenever it is time to maybe stop competing or take a break or slow it down. And then also, like, I have some merch coming out soon. Some custom like Mason Fowler shorts and rash guards and shirts and stuff. So keep your eye out for that. whenever it's ready, I'll post all the stuff on my social media. But that would be also another avenue too that you can get into. Maybe start some kind of like clothing brand, or like start selling some type of gis or something like that. That's like later down the road though, right? In like 5-10 years. But there's ways to make money besides just like teaching classes, right? There's other businesses to start in the sport.
Very true. Your entire unbeaten run in Submission Underground has been in the COVID era with no crowds. Are you like dying for audiences back for future events? Are you one of the types, because there's fighters like this that prefer no crowds, the less noise. I feel it adds a pressure. And have you heard any rumblings from Uncle Chael about crowds being added to upcoming SUG events?
Haven't heard anything. I know, I mean, they take place in Portland, Oregon, which is a little bit more left, stricter, right? And most of the people on the left are more kind of for the lockdowns. So just with that basic knowledge, I wouldn't expect that we'd have a crowd anytime soon. I don't know. I don't know if I like it better or worse. I mean, I've been doing well without the crowd, right? So maybe I do better without the crowd, but I haven't really thought about it too much. I like them both. I don't think I care either way.
All right, so that's pretty much it. Before we go, for the people that are watching now, for the people that'll tune in after the fact, let them know your all your social, any websites, any places they can go. Like you mentioned, the promotion you've been working on, where any websites for that, information for that, any places they can find you.
Yeah, so I would say the best way to get a hold of me or to follow what I'm doing would be on Instagram. It's my name, Mason Fowler, and then MMA. So Mason Fowler MMA on Instagram, and then on Facebook is just my name, Mason Fowler. Those are the two places I'm probably the most active. And then I stream on Twitch too. I play Call of Duty on Twitch. So
has that changed? Like has the Twitch picked up because getting fans, growing your brand, becoming even more well known? Has things like, I saw like one post talk about like there was the most toxic stream.
So I would just say I have a little head start. A lot of people want to become professional video game players, right? Yeah. And they're starting from zero. I already have a little bit of a fan base, right? So I got a little jump start on the whole Twitch thing. Okay. I'm not planning on becoming a full-time video game player or anything like that, but when I'm not training, I do like to play. It kind of takes me out of, gives my mind something else to think about. And so I just figured if I'm going to be doing something for 2 to 3 hours a day, I might as well try to make some kind of business out of it, right? So yeah, it's still very, very small, but it's a start,